I'm here today with Wing Lam, founder of an iconic Southern California restaurant chain, Wahoo's Fish Taco. Thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate you you helping us out and talking with us today. And I'm curious, so why Wahoo's? Why the restaurant business? When did you start this incredible venture?
Well, back when we were kids growing up in Southern California, we immigrated to Southern California in 1975 from Brazil, of all places. So we're full-blooded Chinese, but my parents opened one of the first Chinese restaurants in South America back in the early 50s, and we ended up in Southern California. And we went to high school with most of the kids that ended up working in the action sports industry. So everybody joked about having a place to hang out after surfing. And my brothers and I got together because we're the only ones that have the experience to do it. And that's how it was started in 1988.
Wow. See, I hung out at Bob's Big Boy, so this would have been a lot more fun, I think, to be able to be here.
Yeah.
So how many restaurants do you have in Southern California, and are you in other regions as well?
We have about 30 in Southern California, and we got another 30 in 5 other states, and 1 in Japan.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
5 other states.
Yes.
I didn't know that. How many employees then? That's a big employee.
We got roughly about 1,500 employees company-wide.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So besides food, obviously, you're passionate about
Yep.
food then. So
Yes.
you started the business, it sounds like, to create a place for your friends to hang out in, but why fish tacos? Why
Because
this?
The first rite of passage when we were kids was the first surfing road trip that anybody did was down to Mexico. And when you were surfing in Mexico at the beaches, most of the taco stands made fish tacos. So it was one of those where everybody dreamed of like a Hawaiian plate lunch if you went to Hawaii, and a fish taco from the beaches in Mexico. So we said, hey, we're from Brazil. Brazilian food isn't really that popular yet. We're still gonna have some signature items, like our white rice and black beans are from Brazil. But the rest is basically a little bit of Hawaiian and a lot of Mexico.
And you were really kind of the first to have this type of food, right, in
Yes.
Southern California?
Yeah. There's other places that do fish tacos, but not as their main state. But also we were the first to grill it, make it a little bit healthier.
So besides food, what else are you passionate about? Surfing, I'm gonna guess.
I surfed this morning with my brother Ed.
Really? So why
Yes.
surfing?
It's kind of like doing yoga. You're there on your own, the clock, there's no start and finish time. You're there when you're there, and you just make the most of it, and you're there with the environment. So you're one with nature.
Yeah, it's probably very calming.
Very common.
I grew up in Southern California, Orange County actually, and I have to say hardly ever surf. So we catamaran, we sail.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is kind of the same.
The same thing, you're
Not
on the
quite
water.
though, you're on the water.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. So obviously the surfing maybe overlaps a little bit with the food, but how do you combine your two passions? Is there a combination?
Well, pretty much. Well, we started like feeding all the surfers, and then all the surfers hang out with the skateboarders, the BMX riders, the motocross guys, the mountain bike guys. So pretty much, if you're living in Southern California and you're active, you want to refuel your body with something good. That's kind of how we just kind of fell into. So now we do football, baseball, and all that. But the major sports wasn't really our main thing, because the minor sports, the ones that were kind of on the outside, was more of our bucket. So we just kind of hung out with all the outcasts. And all of a sudden, all these guys end up on TV with the X Games and all that. So now they're part of the Olympics. So it's fun for us to say, hey, I know that kid, I know that athlete. And because we've all kind of grown up together,
Right.
helping each other out. And we're the fuel that kind of keeps everybody going.
It's amazing. You really take in how you grew up and what you did and what you were passionate about, and you created quite an incredible business around that, which is amazing. Not everybody gets to be able to do that. So.
No. And the thing is, like looking at your shoes,
Yeah.
right? The Vans is another iconic Orange County brand. Same thing. They took something that, hey, they liked, and all of a sudden it becomes like a mainstay in almost everybody's life around the world. It's unbelievable what they've done.
Well, good for you. This
Yeah.
what really is an incredible story. But you're also a businessman, and
yes.
we are in the middle of an unprecedented pandemic.
Yes.
Which is it's been hard on every business, but the restaurant business seemed to, really take a hit. It's a huge employee base
Yes.
in our region. So how has Wahoo's been dealing with the pandemic, and kind of walk me through from what about probably March, I would imagine.
So pretty much literally mid-March, I think it was that Wednesday when it was announced that the arenas were closing. That was the beginning of literally the cliff, right? Up until that moment, everything seemed, we're okay. The rest of the country is having these issues, but we're okay because we're going into spring, we're not into winter anymore. Nobody thought anything. But as soon as the Lakers and the Ducks and the Kings announced that they were shutting the arenas down, everybody goes, whoa, because now there's no more indoor activity. And that we kind of got roped into it because they're like, well, dining in is not really a necessity, right? So going to a supermarket was. So all of a sudden we just kind of got all put in that bucket. And then all of a sudden they says, well, but we're going to allow you to do takeout. Well, the damage was already done.
Right.
Because you don't need to be indoors.
Right.
So that was the major. So you saw us doing 100% of our business and our best year ever, literally losing 85% of our sales in less than 2 days. And all of a sudden we're like, okay, it's survival time. We're sitting here in Orange, one of the other stores that was getting ready to get shut down a couple of weeks later. So we have to figure out how to get people in. And trust me, when the news is telling you not to go indoors, it's really hard to get people to come out. And you saw the traffic. I mean, the freeways were empty. Everything was empty.
Empty.
Everybody was staying shelter. Be safe, don't go out, don't mingle, don't socialize, any of that. So we have to figure it out. And one of the things that I was able to do in order to not only take care of our customers that were working in nursing homes, hospitals, the police department, I started making deliveries to them. And at the same time, I was able to keep our stores from closing.
That's right.
Because we still have 6 stores that are closed because the airports, the colleges, and the sports venues, they're still closed.
Okay, so you had to close stores down.
So there's 6 of them still. We lost 2 stores in the pandemic in LA because LA is still crazy. I mean, between the riots and all the protests, it is crazy in LA still, right? So we were getting ready to lose 4 more in Orange County, and that's when I said, okay, what do we need to do? We need to get sales. And I just couldn't get people in, so I decided to go out to deliver. So luckily, with a group of friends of ours, we created a group called the California Love Drop. So my buddies Charles, Wendy, Eric, Brad, we all kind of came together, put our pennies together because there were no other charity events going on. Says, well, why don't we use this as a way to thank all the frontliners? We'll kind of cover our costs while we're doing it.
Keep your employees
and
working.
Keep our employees working. And it all worked. So we've been doing it for 6 months, and we thought it would have ended a month or 2 into it. And it just kept going because we would reopen, the governor would change his mind, we would shut down. So it's been this yo-yo. We're a little bit, closer to about 65%, but we're a long ways from paying rent. That's the big thing. Because we need to be at about 80% before we can make any payments. So our landlords have been really good at working with us. I'm sure that they would like to see some money, but we're not in a position because if we give them, we don't have anything to pay our employees.
Wow. So, so this Operation Love Drop, where are you dropping food to? I have heard you. We had a drop here in the city of Orange at our police department the other day. So, talk to us about that.
So the California Love Drop, we basically go to hospitals, police departments, fire departments. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to get to the frontliners of the fire department. But there's an issue because there's security, there's a lot of issues. So we're working with different groups and the fire department, LA, Riverside, to get to them. Because we would love to be able to bring them a hot meal, some snacks, some drinks, whatever we can. But there's, the security issue because we don't want to get too close to the fires. But that's where they're all at.
That's absolutely amazing. And I think the fact that you were able to keep your employees going is just incredible. So do you own a lot of the actual properties that your stores are on, or do you lease? Is it a combination?
It's a combination. The majority of them are leases because real estate in Orange County is so expensive already. So we, the store that we're in Orange, we own this one.
And Kendra, I want to say, I think this is probably your best store in the game, but that's just me.
Yes, we love the Orange location. It's an old historical building. So it's close to a lot of the community. People remember this building from, the history and all the different, stuff that has happened in the city. So we've been able to maintain the charm of it while making it functional. So it works for us. We have a similar building in Laguna Beach where, again, it's a historical building. We have one on Main Street in Huntington Beach as well. So we were able to buy some of the, I call it the freestanding buildings, because whoever owned it before, their kids saw it as a great opportunity for us to cash out. So they say, hey, so we probably have about 5 locations that we own out of the 30.
Okay. I know you're aware then as not only a leasee, but as a property owner. Historic Prop 13 passed in 1978 really was an incredible stabilizer for property taxes in the state of California. And I know both for homeowners and for commercial properties. And I always like to tell people, they've always been taxed the same, commercial and residential, from our state constitution. They've always been taxed the same. There's no difference. But there's a ballot initiative this November, Prop 15, which is looking to make sure that commercial property owners are not protected anymore by Prop 13. How is that going to affect you as a business owner here in California?
The major impact is the cost basis is going to go from whenever the property was purchased at, whether it was 10 years ago or 100 years ago, to the current base, which means that all of that expense is going to get passed on to us as tenants or ultimately the consumer. And it could cause a number of things. Is if we can't pass it, the big issue right now is the employees, because there's basically only a couple of variables that we have. And employees one of them, right? And our biggest. So if we have to pay more for food, if we have to pay more for rent, pay more for insurance in order to be in business, there's only one thing that's got to go, and that's the employees. So that's one of the major things that people are not thinking about, because they're like, oh my God, so the people that bought the property, why should they be penalized for making a smart investment? Because remember, some of these beach properties 50 years ago, they were giving it away as part of a purchase of a piece of property in LA. Oh, we're going to give you this piece in Laguna, this piece in, because nobody wanted to live here.
Wow.
Right? So people forget that. So if the people that made those smart decisions or took the risk then, or even somebody who bought a property now, right? Because I'm talking about my friends that own hotels along the beach. Remember that whole property south of Huntington Beach, it was basically a golf course forever, driftwood. And you're going to penalize that guy for sitting on the property for 50 years and then turning into hotels, which generate a huge amount of revenue for the city. Now you're going to penalize him? And they spent $1 billion doing all that, right? So again, it's not fair, because if you were born now, you're like, well, why should these families benefit? It goes, well, they were the ones that were smart enough. Because if you look back 10, 20, 50, 100 years ago, nobody really wanted this. It was LA, Hollywood. This was all kind of like an afterthought. It was farmland, it was oranges, right? Nobody cared. So now you're going to penalize us, so not only the businesses, but the people that own them, the people that lease them. Why should we pay more? Because all of a sudden it makes it that much harder to do business in California. Because all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, your tacos went from $3 to $5.
Well, and I was going to say, so you only have a couple things you can do. You can close stores if it gets too expensive. You can get rid of employees. And they're saying Prop 15 is going to cause unemployment to rise already. Or you can raise your prices.
Exactly.
So, I mean, there will be a point where it won't be worth it because people will stop coming in.
Yes. Yeah, because like I said, we've had some leases in LA, for instance, that we had to walk away from because the cost literally became untouchable. Because I'm like, I would have to sell a taco for $10 just to stay in business. And it didn't make any sense. So we say, hey, thank you. And the people that told us to, we got plenty of people that will rent from us. Good luck for them right now, because they're all sitting empty. Because they're like, they picked the worst time to kick a tenant out that had been there for 10 years and 20 years in some cases.
I'm always surprised when I talk to people about Prop 15, what we're hearing on commercials now is this is just going to affect large corporations. You hear it, stop the loophole for large corporations. And when I've talked to people, I've said, it's going to affect businesses, and they'll say, well, that's okay, I don't own my own business, I don't go into commercial properties, and I start listing them out. And when I get to restaurants, usually that's when someone will go, what do you mean restaurants?
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, yes, restaurants, nail salons, gyms, your vets, liquor stores, movie theaters, concert vehicles. People don't quite realize that we're talking about a Wahoo's fish taco and taking your family out to a dinner before a game or a movie theater when we get to go back and do those things again.
Yeah, they have no idea. They think of the Disneylands, the Irvine Company, the South Coast Plaza. But remember, when South Coast Plaza gets hit, guess what's going to happen to all the tenants?
It's a lot of, and that's a lot of jobs.
Yes, it's a lot of jobs. So they have to think past that. And again, I'm sorry that your parents, your grandparents weren't smart enough to buy that piece of property when they had the opportunity, right? And they bought it somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's life.
Yeah.
You know, nobody knew then. I mean, if I knew what we know now,
yes.
we would have bought those houses on the beach for $50,000.
I'd be in Balboa now.
Exactly.
Well, and candidly, I tell people who, for a residential, complain about that, they're still protected under Prop 13. Because the average property tax rate in 1978 was almost 3 times it is now.
Yes.
It's like 2.67.
Yeah.
So I'll say on a $500,000 property, you're paying $5,000 now.
Yeah.
It would be $15,000 without Prop 13.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Also, Prop 15 is going to affect farmers, even though they say they're not. It will affect the food chain because dairies and processing plants and vineyards and all of the buildings where those properties are affected. So I'm curious, from somebody who uses a lot of food in your business, I mean, are you looking, I mean, where do you buy a lot of your stuff from now? Are you looking potentially to buy out of California then?
Right now,
if the prices go up?
Due to seasonality, you can only buy fresh produce from California for part of the year. And part of it comes from Florida, part of it comes from Texas and Florida. So it's just a seasonality thing on the fresh stuff. But on this, like the proteins and all that, you're talking about like New Zealand, Australia. There's a lot of other countries that can produce. I mean, right now, the huge crop out of Mexico is avocados. And now it's coming out of Chile as well. Because again, the biggest cost to making an avocado is water.
Yeah. It's a lot of water, yeah. But
it's a lot of water. So guess what? Wherever water is cheap, that's where avocados are going to come from. So it becomes this supply and demand. So again, you have this huge resource that's already expensive, water. Now you increase your base on the land. There's not going to be any avocado growers left in California either. So these are all the things that nobody thinks about. And they just complain that, oh my God, an avocado is $3. Well, guess what? Right? We don't have any water here.
It's come a ways. So if Prop 15 passes, how do you see that affecting? I'm assuming, I mean, Wahoo's Fish Taco is very popular. It's a great product. I'm sure you could expand probably as fast as you wanted to. Expanding though in California, let's talk about the business climate in California and Prop 15. How do you see your expansion plans here?
California is already a very, I call it, attorney-friendly state. Very, very difficult. There's just too many, there's a lot of red tape, right? State taxes. I mean, a store in Colorado or a store in Texas does much better than a store here because they don't have to deal with all the taxes and also the workman's comp thing. So now all of a sudden you increase the tax base. I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's just look at it. A store that does $1 million here in gross and a store in Vegas that does $1 million, I'm going to take home an additional 10% by just going there.
Wow.
Why would I want to be here? And again, a big reason we're all here is we love the coast.
Right.
We love the ocean. Well, now guess what? There's these man-made surf pools. It makes it really, really hard because the argument is like my friends that come back from Texas, from Waco, they're like, oh my God, the wave here is unbelievable. It's if you close your eyes, you wouldn't even know you were not at a beach.
Well, the weather will only take us so far in California is what I say, and then none of us are going to be able to afford to live here. So I'm assuming you're a no on Prop 15.
I am a definitely no on Prop 15.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. It was just really nice to see you again, and it was nice to actually get a background and feel for really, like I said before, an iconic Southern California restaurant. So
well, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. And we'll have more right after this.